Hello and happy Friday to everybody. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Jamie Lynch, Renee Washington, Tyler Zulli are the normal three, and the pleasure is ours to welcome in today our new Phillies beat writer for the season, and we will let you know a lot more about that in a minute. But from Twitter, you might know him as 2008 Phils. In reality, in the human flesh form, his name is John Foley, and he's here with us today. John, welcome into the PHLY studios, man. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Exciting to be here. This place is amazing. It's nice to be here in person and not have to worry so much about my own technical setup, as some people who've watched previous shows might have noticed that has been problematic.
Well, it's a learning curve for us all.
Too, actually.
Okay.
We lost you again.
Even here. Even here.
We're all going through a learning curve here.
No,
Technology
it is great to have you here in person. And it's also great to have you just be a part of the team. You do such a great job. I know we've talked about it before with your Philly coverage, especially going back to 2008 Phils. So to have you joining us on the set today, because we've got so much to get into. And I know people were asking about you, John. We had some requests in the chat, guys. Here he is. And in our show earlier this week, they were like, when is John going to be on? Here he is. So looking forward to it. I see in the chat, it is a much further angle from here to be able to see things. Wow. But I see in the chat that we've got a lot of our friends here already. Chris, happy Friday to you as well. Mopar, Dave Dewar. We've got Marshall in the chat. What's up, Marshall? And see Mick 62480. Hut, hut. Sounds like a football play. Welcome in, guys. Listen, so much has gone down in the last 24 hours, and that's the story of every day, right?
Yeah, when Jeff Passan
plan,
speaks, people in the baseball world and baseball nerds everywhere listen because, as Tyler and I were just talking about before the show, Jeff Passan is, in my opinion, the Adam Schefter of the NFL. Like, when he talks, he's got his finger on the pulse the most. And he did have a story come out on ESPN this morning, and we'll dive into that and how it pertains to the Phillies. But happy December to everybody out there. It is December 1st. It is officially the holiday month.
That's so weird.
It is weird. We did the Advent calendar this morning with the girls, and I was like, wow, it's December. And before we get into the Jeff Passan story, John, you are officially going to Nashville on Sunday or Monday of this week upcoming to attend the winter meetings, to write for allphly.com, to be a representation of us, and hopefully, here's some nuggets, and there's going to be a lot of activity across Major League Baseball and maybe with the Phillies as well next week. So we're excited to have you down there writing for us, joining us on the show, doing some stuff on the YouTube channel. So it should be pretty fun.
It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I can't wait to get down there. A little disappointed that it's not going to be as warm as I had hoped in Nashville. It seems like the weather is pretty much the same as it is here. But yeah, super excited.
But there's music in a lot the bars, so that's a fun place.
A lot of bars. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And excited to bring all the news, all the rumors. I'm going to try to get myself involved in some negotiations, make sure things work out well for the Phillies. And it should be a great time.
Yeah,
and what has me excited is the fact that every day we've been talking about hot stove updates and rumors, and there's a lot that keep coming out about how we're expecting some trades and major signings to happen even before winter meetings happen, and what's going to happen in Nashville. So it's great that we're not only going to have you down there to keep a pulse of the updates of what's going on in winter meetings for everybody. Again, John will be there in Nashville, being able to capture all the sights and sounds that are going on.
It's one of the major cities I haven't done.
I know, and
I want to go.
It's one of those things, though, that has me excited because of just how aggressive the offseason has been so far, because it feels like next week we're going to see some major deals happening. And yes, it is still on the bucket list, Jamie.
Yeah, so we'll live vicariously through you next week, John.
Right.
But it does appear, we talked about the seed leans leading up to the winter meetings yesterday. It does appear like a lot of seeds are being sowed for some potentially major moves coming on. And the winter meetings are usually when things heat up because teams have suites and agents are stopping by and they're talking trades, as well as free agents. And Jeff Passan wrote an article on ESPN, which was paywalled, but I have that paywall, so we're going to bring it to you in case you didn't see it. So let's start with number one, the whale in the room. I still think it's a pipe dream, but anytime your team is mentioned next to Juan Soto, it's hard not to get irrationally excited.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what Jeff Passan says about the Juan Soto front. He does expect something to happen by the end of next week in the winter meetings. He goes on to say the Yankees are the most obvious destination who are seeking bats to spark an offense that ranked 25th in runs scored last year. They have the major league ready pitching that the Padres desire and a farm system deep enough to whet San Diego's appetite in this deal. So it does seem like the Yankees are the first. But Jeff Passan goes on. The Cubs check 3 important boxes: need, talent, and money. Other possibilities include the Philadelphia Phillies, who don't necessarily have the need, but certainly have the talent and money. The Red Sox and Mets are both in a prospect hoarding phase that might keep them from pushing in for a player not signed beyond 2024. The Orioles could make a push if they do have the best farm system in baseball, though they are hitter heavy in their lineup. So the Phillies are mentioned as kind of Yankees most obvious, 60% of the pie. And then the Cubs probably get like a big 20 or 30% chance. But then the Phillies are mentioned kind of third there from Jeff Passan. I didn't think there was a real possibility of this. Pretty exciting to hear from Jeff Passan.
It's very much exciting because, listen, we've been talking about, we think we're going to see Juan Soto with the Yankees, and we still honestly
probably
feel
will.
pretty confidently that that's going to happen. I mean, 60%, and we're included in that. But to have the Phillies in the mix to potentially be able to pick up Juan Soto in a trade, I was surprised Juan Soto got traded to the Padres years ago, and now I'm even more excited to thought that Juan Soto could end up in Philly. This is a guy that, and I was looking at various records that he's already passed and been a part of. One stat, top 10 OPS since 1945 through age 24, and Juan Soto's number 6. That list includes guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Reggie Jackson, Frank Thomas, Mike Trout, and Juan Soto. Yeah, if you heard of those guys. And
Cheltenham's finest, Reggie Jackson.
There. And then also even looking at the stats of, because he's only 25 years old, he's already accomplished so much in a young career that since 1995, there have been 38 hitters. Just 38 since 95. That's a long
less than
time
40.
ago. It's almost 30 years ago. It's like a hitter per year.
It's the math.
That have had at least, what'd you say?
I said it was less than 40.
Yeah, that's good math. It is correct.
That's math.
It is correct, absolutely. That have had at least 3 5+ WAR seasons through age 27. Of course, Soto is only 25. He just turned 25 in October. So he's on that list and on many other lists. So to think that he could be added to the Phillies don't have a priority for bringing in, when you look at Juan Soto, what he would add, you have a priority for Juan Soto, though. Like, yes, we've talked about wanting more pitching arms and outfielders and better at-bats. I think Juan Soto can give you some pretty good at-bats.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
I think check.
He checks some
to have
boxes.
him in the batting order, I think would be fantastic, to say the least. So, wow. I'm excited about that news.
I mean, look, people talk about how would he fit in with anyone else. Juan Soto is the type of player that he's going to fit. You make everything else fit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when people take a look at him, the first thing you got to start with is his age, 25, and he just turned 25.
Yeah,
like a month ago. I mean, this is incredible. He would be. I know we don't call them daycare anymore. He's the same age as those guys. I mean, but with a 946 career OPS, World Series title. I mean, look, if they can make Juan Soto happen, you make Juan Soto happen, and you figure out the rest around it, in my view.
Yeah, so I didn't think it was a possibility, and maybe this is why Dave Dombrowski was shopping around the name Nick Castellanos earlier, because you do want to shred some money if you're going to bring him in. The reason he's on the block is he is a free agent in 2024. So that is upcoming. It's also part of the same reason why the Padres aren't going to get back nearly what they gave up, because they gave up, Tyler, do you remember exactly? I think it was 3 of their top six
so
guys.
it was C.J. Abrams was definitively in it. Mackenzie Gore was definitively in it. I think it was 2, 3, and 5, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about
I'll
right.
go back and double check.
But they gave up a haul.
It was a large return because of the fact that
Because he had 3 years.
3 years at the time, and the expectation was, it was like, wow, the Padres are now spending. It looks like he's going to be a Padre for 10 years.
Yeah. So it turns out now.
They spent all right, guys. They spent all right.
Yeah, it turns out now that the Padres are broke bitches and they have to move him, and the team that's going to acquire him doesn't have to give up as much as the Padres originally did, because it's only that 1 year, and there's a looming, $450 to $550 million contract he's probably going to sign because of the age. I mean, I think if he's out there and obtainable, you do it. I mean,
you have to.
It would be the most insane lineup in baseball. I still think the Yankees are going to get him, and but the fact that Jeff Passan kind of mentions them third gives me a little bit of hope. I might have gone from that's like a 4% chance to maybe there's a 9 or 10% chance that they end up getting.
That's a fun chance, and he has Phillies connections, right?
Sure, he won a World Series with Kevin Long and Trey Turner. Played with Kyle Schwarber.
Another guy you get from the National that at one point played with the Nationals too,
right?
And that's panned out pretty well for the
And do you remember
when
when he was in the home run contest at the All-Star game a couple years ago? Trey Turner went and wore a Juan Soto Nationals jersey.
Yeah, he's got connections
he
already.
played with Schwarber, Harbor, Turner, and Kevin Long.
It's returning back with your former teammates and Kevin Long, and also, not to mention, we've talked about the Phillies needing an outfielder better at bats, but we were kind of looking at some, just pieces, small pieces, versatile pieces they're not going to make or break, but they will just add and give you more versatility in the outfield. But to have someone like Juan Soto's caliber, who's been in conversation of greatest hitter of all time at a young age, at even 20 years old, that we were talking about Juan Soto, that's not just a small piece. You're destined and should be winning the World Series with Juan Soto added.
That's fun. And Phillies fans, we have been spoiled in recent years in terms of, first it was Real Muto, and then Harper, and then Castellanos.
You can't trade Sixto Sanchez. He's untouchable.
You can't. No, not Sixto for Real Muto. And I mean, look how that worked out. So, you got to be careful of the prospect hugging. You don't want to gut the farm system, but when the right player is out there, and he's pretty much the age of some of these prospects you're talking about. Anyway.
So Dave in the chat says, so who do the Phillies offer? So the Padres are looking for starting pitching because they have 700 innings available in the open market this offseason that they're losing from last year's team. So they're looking for major league, probably some ready, some prospect pitching. I would think it absolutely starts with Mick Abel. Is a guy. They're probably going to want to push you for a Justin Crawford, potentially. And then major league ready-wise, I think you want to try to unload Nick Castellanos if this is something that becomes real. Brandon Marsh is another guy. Maybe you try to unload Taijuan Walker. I mean, you'd have to get creative with this package because the Yankees are going to be able to beat probably, more suited for what the Padres are looking for. But I think it starts with those two prospects probably. And then you take it from there, and then you kind of balance our major league ready prospect. And we'll see. John, if you see Dave Dombrowski walking into the suite of the San Diego Padres ownership group next week,
I'm going to be all over it.
You're going to be in the laundry chute looking down the hall.
They never
know where I'm going to pop up. I'm going to be on their asses.
Well, I know Marshall was saying the Nationals are the Phillies farm system at this point. I also want to say hello to Jim. I think we had someone named Jim in the chat that's from West Virginia.
What do you say, Jim?
Various people that are in the chat commenting their thoughts. When you look at the list that has been proposed of possible teams that Juan Soto could land and end up, it's the Mets, who are looking to spend anything and everything they can. The Cubs, who are also been very aggressive. The Giants, who have been, as of late, much more aggressive. The Blue Jays, which is possibly a surprise to some that Toronto's in that conversation. And then, of course, the Yankees. And with the Yankees, I know we spoke about it yesterday. You want to talk about who would be moved? I know Dave was asking the question. Well, the Yankees were talking about offering prospects, offering someone like Clark Schmidt, Will Warren, Chase Hampton, and some prospects that have potential to reach the majors next season. So it does seem like it's a combination of 3, 4, 5 guys. Honestly, it's a big trade that would be done for Juan Soto that the Yankees are proposing. So you look at what the Phillies equivalent is of that. There's some names that we could afford to send to the Padres. They could use. It looks like youth is what they also want. Prospects. They're trying to rebuild. They're broke, so they also want people that more numbers, I guess you can say, than just 1 or 2. So I think based on what we've heard, rumored to be what the Yankees are considering in the trade, the Phillies have some pieces they can send to the Padres, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not a farm system bereft of talent like we're used to in many years. We've got the pieces that could probably get it done if they want to get it done. And one thing that surprises me is just what the Padres are up to generally. I mean, they obviously had a hugely disappointing season last year, but they've got really good pieces still, and it makes you wonder: did they just get unlucky? Should they just run it back and take their chances again? But it seems like they made their decision.
Yeah, it seems like they've kind of had a miscalculation of their own organization and maybe got a little too big in their britches in terms of spending, and then not being able to make payroll in August and September and having to take that loan. It's like maybe you guys, the CFO and the GM, maybe should have talked a little more here. I don't really understand what you guys are doing, but it is what it is. Welcome into a new chatter, Christopher.
Yeah, welcome. He's been
first-time
listening
chatter
all week, but is now joining us live and is not interested in the idea of moving prospects, letting them go. But for Juan Soto, I let it go. Let them go.
Yeah.
All the prospects hit the dough. Listen, we're talking about Juan Soto here. I think if we were talking about, there's a number of names that are not of nearly close to Juan Soto's caliber that I would possibly agree with. But if it's Juan Soto on a team that is win now, I think that's the key, guys. We have to remember everything that the Phillies are doing in terms of moves is to win now. They're not rebuilding. They're not in the same situation as the Padres or the Mets or even the Yankees in that sense. This is a team that has all the pieces that got them to the World Series, and the NLCS is now looking for adding and solidifying 1 or 2 that can round them out to win a World Series. So as a win now team, and with Juan Soto in the conversation, you have to at least try to put as much as you possibly can into it. And if I'm Juan Soto, let's be honest, would you rather go to the Yankees, Mets, Giants, Cubs, or the Phillies?
I mean, if he cares about winning, I would say the Phillies are the closest there.
I would say they would take the top spot out of that group.
When athletes view going to the Yankees,
I know.
They view that as ka-ching, ka-ching, because not only is the team going to pay you, it's the most popular sports franchise in the world. There's marketing dollars. There's all that stuff. You get to live in New York, So it is pretty appealing to go to the Yankees.
New York.
It's been a fairly successful organization.
But he's got a lot of friends here, so we got that going.
Can't underestimate.
Get those friends reaching out and start having conversations with Juan.
Juan, you want to work with people you like.
Sure.
Your buddies.
I just fear they don't have the pitching to offer San Diego. Because if you want to protect Andrew Painter, Mick Abel becomes your trade kind of chip there.
I know people in the chat were talking about Yoro.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Padres absolutely love Christopher Sanchez or, go, Taijuan Walker. But, no, I just don't think you're going to be able to match what the Yankees are going to be able to give them. So hopefully I'm wrong, but the fact that Passan mentions them is very encouraging. So Passan goes on to mention the Phillies again with a big-name player, and that's our boy Yamamoto. So here's what he had to say about Yamamoto. And then there's a couple. The trade market is becoming more interesting than the free agent market, by the way.
It is. But I like that, though.
It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
There's more than one way to go about it.
Oh, yeah.
So Yamamoto, Jeff Passan goes on to say, he says, it's difficult to remember a player with a market as robust as Yamamoto's. The 25-year-old right-hander will decide among who's who of teams interested in him. The Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Red Sox, and Cubs are among the favorites, with the Giants, Blue Jays, and Phillies expected to be in the mix. Now, obviously, you're not one of the favorites there, and Mets, money. Mets, Yankees have money. Dodgers have money. Red Sox have money, and Cubs all have money. So those are the big 5 outside of the Phillies in terms of spenders. So they're going to be interested in him. But again, it's just nice to know that the Phillies are potentially in the mix. My theory is they're taking a free PR spin with Yamamoto. But regardless, it's always nice to see your name in the mix there with somebody like Yamamoto.
Yeah, it's super interesting because, from Dombrowski, from more local reporting, you sort of get the feeling that the Phillies are trying to message that they're pretty much set, that they're going to tinker around the edges, that don't expect anything major. But then over and over,
you see this.
You see the Phillies mentioned with these big names. So, if nothing else, it makes for a fun winter. We'll see if any of it.
Yeah, it
actually
does.
comes to pass.
It definitely does. And we have consistently seen the Yankees. I know the Cubs in some reports are the favorites. It's the Yankees, it's the Cubs, it's the Mets, it's the Giants. How much are they really going to be able to spend? My goodness. I know they've got a lot of money.
Steve
but
Cohen's
they're
got
in
a
the
couple of those
conversation for
billions on his hands.
Shohei, Yamamoto, Soto. Like, good Lord. Every major possible trade or free agent is running through the Yankees, Mets, Giants, and Cubs. So they're not all they can't all get them. So I like that the Phillies are in the conversation because someone's going to trickle through and hopefully it pans out for the Phillies. I know I see some other people in the chat. Wow, a lot of long response in the chat. Christopher O'Donnell's talking about Soto. Again, it's really hard to read from. I need magnifying glass. But Christopher O'Donnell's talking about Soto as well. Committing long term to Soto because that is something I know for Soto and his team. I think the long term deal has been what they're also seeking an extension.
Yeah, obviously, if you give up that stuff, you want to know that he's here for the long term.
For sure.
And that's something that'll be discussed among, is Soto a Boris guy as well?
Yes.
Yeah, well, this is part of, in getting Bryce Harper, you have a great relationship going with Scott Boras. And that type of stuff does mean something when you're dealing with these negotiations. So, Scott Boras is probably the most powerful man in baseball. I would say even more powerful than Rob Manfred in a strange way. So the fact that the Phillies have a good relationship with him, it's very helpful in these situations.
It's definitely very helpful. What could be helpful for you guys? That is FOCO, because they make it easy for you, whatever it is that you're looking to purchase in terms of merchandise, collectibles, bobbleheads. There's going to be some new favorite stars with different teams, hopefully with the Phillies, and you're going to need to buy some merchandise to be able to represent them and rock their latest jersey.
Saw a great
you can head over to FOCO.
Eagles ugly sweater
I'm not
for
an ugly
Christmas
sweater
time
fan.
on FOCO.
Oh, there you go. FOCO even has ugly sweaters because they always are keeping up with the latest trends, what's going on, major news, holidays. And so over at FOCO, you can use code PHLY10 to get 10% off and make sure that you are able to rock that ugly sweater as we're cheering on the Eagles to beat up on the 49ers or looking ahead at the Phillies or the Sixers, whatever it is you're looking to purchase, head over to FOCO, be able to use code PHLY10 to get 10% off.
And FOCO makes the overalls.
FOCO makes the overalls.
So you could have the overalls.
Got everything.
It's got everything.
Merch you're
Incredible.
looking for, they've got you covered. I love that you guys are dropping in the chat your thoughts, what you think is going to happen. Make sure you're hitting that like button as well. Of course, winter meetings are around the corner as the calendar switches over to December 1st. That means we are just days away from seeing how all these pan out. Now, there have been consistent rumors that Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto,
big names,
Blake Snell are going to be even locked in before the winter meetings, but that means that's happening this weekend. But I imagine we're going to see one of these big names happening next week. Now, I don't think Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be as quick because his camp is reportedly saying they're going to take their time. Of course, he's been doing all virtual conversations. As we know, virtual is not the same as in person. It's been phone calls. It's been Zoom calls. And so at the winter meetings, that will be their first, over the next couple of weeks, their first chance to start having in-person conversations. So I don't imagine the winter meetings will conclude with a Yamamoto deal.
I wouldn't think so. What do they have till January 4th, I believe
they've got
it
till
is.
January 4th. They've got time. They want to use the full 45 days. This is a major decision.
And if I'm
obviously.
Yamamoto's agent, like there's a real pitching desperation out there. You know, Heyman has said there's 8 teams looking for multiple starters. The Padres are looking for starters. And the clubs that are looking for pitching are all the big market clubs with a lot of money. So if I'm Yamamoto's agent, I want to have these teams sweating for me. So, yeah, I'm in no rush to make a move.
Makes sense. You're 25. You're in a great part of your career. You're one of the biggest names on the market. And there's other names, as we talk about. Snell, Cease is another one that have been reported to have deals happening sooner. Let them have those deals. There are, as you mentioned, plenty of teams looking for multiple starting pitchers. And then Yamamoto can find the spot that makes most sense. Philly.
Yeah. I mean, it really seems like there's a lot of game theory involved, right? Like if you can be that last pitcher that holds out, and now everybody's scrambling, and there's like 20 teams that need a starter, and you can be the
he's going to cash in.
Last person. He's going to cash in no matter what.
Ching, ching, ching.
Yeah, I mean, when you think back to the Bryce Harper situation, you know, I think baseball and the new CBA has kind of shifted a little bit where stuff starts to happen a little earlier, and I think agents and players were kind of like not feeling the, you know, some of those mid-tier players not signing until spring training. So I think they're trying to accelerate it a little bit. But if you remember, Bryce Harper signed what, like early March? Wasn't it like the first week of March?
Yeah, I've definitely.
So I don't think that's good for the sport. I think, you know, like these winter meetings, I think a lot's going to happen. I don't think it's Yamamoto, but we're going to do a segment here in a minute called Buy or Sell of what we think is going to happen next week. But I do think Soto is going to happen. You know, I think some of these big names there's going to be some movement in Nashville next week.
And I think that's why there's no surprise we're hearing all these reports today, especially.
Sure. This is a little appetizer before the main course.
We talked about this yesterday. Like, this is the appetizer leading up to the main entree of winter meetings next week, where teams are playing the game. It's a business move to now start. If you're Cleveland, if you're, you know, the Yankees, if you're the Mets, whoever, you're dropping out these reports of who you're willing to trade or who you're looking to trade for, or what moves you're looking to make, that now going into winter meetings, it's got everybody salivating for the main course, because Friday's like, it's like I won't say Black Friday, but it's become that of like, here's all the deals we're looking to make, and let's see who bites next week.
Yeah. So another name that has entered the trade market is a very interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want a bullpen arm. I think most Phillies fans want another bullpen arm. We have a good bullpen, but we can very easily make this a great bullpen with the addition of probably one more, you know, kind of high leverage spot arm, because I'm not counting on Orion to be that yet. You hope he becomes that, but he's still, again, there's an over loving of prospects in Philadelphia that infects many people. But this guy has led the American League in saves the last 2 years. His name is Emanuel Clase from the Cleveland Guardians. He is on a very team-friendly contract, and it goes on to say that, you know, it's no guarantee that he moves, but Cleveland seems to be listening to offers on Shane Bieber, on Clase. So this is why it's surprising to me, because listen to how team-friendly this contract is. So early in the 2022 season, Cleveland signed Clase to a 5-year, $20 million contract extension that included an affordable $10 million club option for 27-28 seasons with a $2 million buyout. So he's entering the third season of that deal, and he's slated to earn just $2.5 million this season, $4.5 million the following year, and only $6 million in 2026. So because of that contract, you're going to be able to get an absolute haul for him. Is it something the Phillies consider? I would think, like, for me, if I'm Dave Dombrowski, I just take the Howie Roseman model, and like every single name that's out there, you make calls on. You gauge what the market is, what it's going to cost, and then you kind of sleep on it. So I hope the Phillies make a call on Emanuel Clase. I think he would be really effing exciting to add with Alvarado and Hoffman and Sir Anthony and all those guys. You could really elevate to the top bullpen in baseball.
Especially when you think about the playoffs and the end of the playoffs, it really felt like they were one back end high leverage relief pitcher short. I mean, Kimbrel was cooked.
Yeah.
They had high hopes for Orion, and still do. I still do. Everybody does. He looks like the real deal, but you know, the guy started in single A at the beginning of the season, and now you're throwing them in the fire. And they were in that position because they just didn't have enough guys they could rely on at the very end there. There's a common line of thought that you can bulk up on relievers at the trade deadline.
Sure.
Catch somebody who's hot, get them a little cheaper. But if you've got somebody with numbers like this and on that team-friendly contract,
and he's with you for 4 or 5 more,
that's the
3
thing.
more years with those club options.
Another 25-year-old. 25 is the magic number of ages of major names that we're talking about here. You talk about the numbers: a 3.22 ERA last season, 64 strikeouts, a 1.16 WHIP, and 44 saves. Listen, Emanuel Clase, I know in the chat, Lisa, welcome in MBDBDBF. Barbara as well, welcome in.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
You love that. You guys are like, yeah, obviously, as we've talked about, and as you guys are sharing in the chat, bullpen arms are the necessity. And someone like Emanuel Clase, who, yes, you look at that deal, it's workable, it's manageable, and he'd be a great addition. Great addition.
You would just have to go up a ton because it's such a team-friendly deal. But look, they're not
manageable.
my prospects. Like this team's window, and I know, there was a hot take reaction to our Twitter trade the other day. People have to always keep this in mind. The Phillies' window to win a title is the next 2 to 3 years. So, yes, you want to have 5 and 6 years down the line in your mind, obviously, because that's how the Phillies got into a decade of ineptitude between 2012 and 2021. But the window to win is now. There is an element of pushing all your chips in here.
Yes. This is the time to go for it. I mean, we've been through a decade of rebuilding and holding on to prospects that didn't pan out. That's not where this franchise is right now, and we should celebrate that.
Yeah,
we're out of the wilderness, and we're in a place where you talk about a Juan Soto. What if Juan Soto was on the team last year?
Yeah,
get knocked out by the Diamondbacks. I doubt it.
Yeah,
I
and
doubt
that's the thing.
So,
I know we have talked about the untouchable mindset of Phillies prospects. We know the history of Phillies prospects have not always panned out, and yes, we saw what Orion was able to do coming into the final games of the regular season, his back-to-back postseason game blunders, that you saw, he still needs more time, which we expected, obviously, getting called in, and of course the trajectory of that 6-month swing that he went through to finally land with the Phillies. Andrew Painter coming off of surgery, Tommy John surgery is not something to sneeze at. Yes, we've seen plenty of people that respond well and come back off of it, but we've also seen some guys that don't.
Right.
And so we don't know the future. We haven't had a chance to see a full season of Andrew Painter. We haven't had a chance to see a full season of Ryan Kerkering. So those 2 names alone, you add in someone like Mick Abel, we just don't know. There's a lot of question marks. And I'm all for taking the sure thing. I know, Jamie, we were talking about it. I believe the concept of do you take the mystery item, or if you're getting offered a boat, for example, do you take the boat or the mystery item? I'm going with the boat. I don't want to leave it up to chance and the what ifs and all of that.
Boats are expensive though, Renee. Have you seen gas prices?
All right, JD. If I'm getting it for free, I'm taking the boat.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as we know, this is not a rebuild team. This is a win now team.
Yeah, it's push-in time.
So you need pieces that you can know in the next 1, 2, 3 seasons are going to be able to help the Phillies win now, not planning for the what ifs of, Orion can be this. He can very well be that.
Sure.
Andrew Painter very well can be a
But if
great
I can
pitcher.
turn Orion into Devin Williams or Emmanuel Clase, I'm doing that probably 7 out of 7 days a week.
And that's the thing. Why wait for them to become a Devin Williams or an Emmanuel Clase when you can just get
them
and
right?
pick up Emmanuel Clase? I don't know.
And Renee, you mentioned Andrew Painter, who I was so incredibly high on, so excited about, just
Such
like
a bummer.
everybody else.
Such a bummer.
During the spring, but you look at where he is now, and he's got to miss another season. He is still extremely valuable, but should he be more valuable to a team that's 2 years away than to a team that's should be all in right now? So I know we love Painter. Might get killed by the comments on this, but I wouldn't even make Painter untouchable. I feel like he's extremely valuable to someone else, and you could bring value in for that. So
yeah. I mean, I'm open to a lot because they're on the doorstep of a title.
Exactly.
And will I trade, some pain 6-7 years from now for another parade down Broad Street? Yeah, I probably would. So there's another name that's popped up in my my morning stove roundup readings the past 2 or 3 days. I've seen him pop up twice now, and I believe Tyler's in love with this guy. I could be wrong because I'm big on outfield help too. I've seen some chatter in the chat here about outfield. I think they're in desperate need of an outfielder, to be quite honest with you. And this name has popped up as a possibility under the Tyler Glasnow story, and that is Randy Arozarena. He, again, like Clase, isn't a sure thing to be moved, but his name has now popped up twice, and he was kind of thrown in the Passan story as like a side secondary type of nugget. Tyler, am I correct that you love Arozarena?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Would you push in a lot to go get him?
So, yeah, I think so. I mean, define a lot, because clearly my value of prospects is probably diminished further than most. And so define a lot. But yeah, I think that I probably would.
Probably 2 of your top 5 prospects, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, what's the contract look like?
That I have not pulled up. I think he's only got 2 years of control left off the top of my head. But I'll find that. I mean, talk about filling a need. He would be.
Yeah, I mean, he's
So he's 28 years old.
Fairly average defender, but I mean,
sure. Who cares about defense?
The pop is there. The playoff, heroics is off the charts.
To interrupt you, he's in arbitration year 2. Estimation for that is about $7 million.
Yeah, that's a steal.
So he has.
Even you could give him a pay raise to 10 to 12, and I still think that's a contractual steal for a guy like Randy Arozarena.
Yeah. So, guys, thoughts on Randy Arozarena? He's offensively a freak. He's kind of shown you that Bill Rafferty double order of onions in the playoffs. He's been a gamer for the Tampa Bay Rays, and the shame of being a Rays fan is anytime you get somebody great from your farm system, you eventually end up selling them. So, Randy Arozarena, would you?
Absolutely. I mean, again, with all these names. Depends on what the package is, but yeah, he's a great fit, right-handed,
which is huge. They do need a right-handed bat.
Yeah. Pop, speed.
Yeah.
He's a great fit. So would you? It comes down to what would they be looking for? And you made a great point, Jamie. I can't imagine being a Rays fan.
It's gotta suck. It's gotta suck. Like every good player you get and culture and cultivate and all that. You end up trading them. It's rough.
Only positive thing they've got going for them, and this could be a positive or a negative depending on how you look at it, is that you're in Tampa Bay, and being in Florida could be great, but it also is where the craziest things and wildest stories tend to happen.
That's where Florida man and bath salts happen. Yeah.
Every news story I hear, I'm like, must be Florida. Must be Florida. Mm-hmm. But listen, for Randy, as we talk about, I know in the chat, Lisa was mentioning it. Welcome in, Lisa. Different people were talking about the win now mindset. Championship windows, as we know, is very small. I like the point Lisa was making there. There's no guarantee for the future. So to bring in somebody like Randy, if we're talking about good at bats, good outfielder with splits of, had 23 home runs, 83 RBIs, 254 average, 789 OPS. Randy is one of those pieces that you can add in, and you know what you're going to get from him. Also in his 20s, 28 years old, in a great point of his career, and probably another guy that's going to come into the club. This is another part that we don't talk enough about. That's just going to be so excited to be on a team. Talk about being a frustration as a Rays fan. How about you now get to come to the Phillies and you're loving playing at Citizens Bank Park and winning games and being in contention to win a World Series?
And Jose Alvarado greets you with a friendship bracelet.
Right.
Just like good vibes.
It makes complete sense to me. Instead of being down there in Florida where they have upside down pineapple controversies and ridiculous things going on and alligators attacking people, come to Philly where you can talk about possibly winning a World Series.
Best I know, all we have is the one alligator, the emotional support alligator.
Yes,
That's the only guy I'm willing to
support alligator. He's not attacking you.
He's not the mean one.
He's gonna hug you.
He's a huggable alligator.
He's gonna do some cool tricks for you. He's a whole celebrity.
That's our pitch.
Actor.
Be in contention.
Yeah. Plus we have pork roll. I mean, again, I think that always sells.
You had me at pork roll. You should. We could have led to that. You got me at pork roll.
Has Randy had pork roll? Does he know how good we have it here?
We got to make sure he does.
Do you like having to worry about every possible pond, puddle thing, having an alligator coming out of it?
Get out of Florida.
Screw that weather.
Like, which would you rather have? But, championships are the selling point for the Phillies. And someone like Randy, come on over. help win a championship, and we will greet you with pork roll.
Yeah, there's a lot of names that, John is going to be hearing next week. And again, if you're just joining us, John's going to be down in Nashville at the MLB Winter Meetings, representing the PHLY Phillies podcast. So you can check out his writing on allphly.com. We'll have some, social media content, some videos on demand on our YouTube channel. He'll be joining the show and bringing us a little bit of the color and flavor from down there. Now, yesterday on the show, we talked about Zach Wheeler and the Todd Zulli piece about extending him and how much of a priority is that. And I kind of just mentioned nonchalantly that like Wheeler's best 3 years here have been here. Of his career, his best years are here in Philadelphia. And it's kind of been freakishly good and one of the best contracts the Phillies have ever signed. And I just kind of wondered out loud, like, how does that stack up versus Roy Halladay's best 3 years here versus Cole Hamels' best 3 years here? So we're going to show you a graphic in a second. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Game Time, because Game Time is awesome. I've used it a couple times now to go to a concert, to go to a comedy show, and it's the fastest growing ticket marketplace in the country. So buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. My wife texted me today about taking the girls to Disney on Ice. So I'm going to check that out on Game Time. Yeah, so it's got the best, lowest price guarantee for you. Game Time is fast and easy way for you to get to all your favorite events. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every event in your area. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. So you get images of your seats. You buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to go digging through your email at the gate, which my wife loves doing, and it leads to a heated debate amongst us. Why didn't you download those tickets? Well, Game Time just makes that easy for you.
Oh, you print tickets still?
Print tickets? No, everything's digital.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
No, one time she hadn't downloaded it, and we were at the gate, and there's all these people, and it was hard to get service. So you got to work ahead of time.
You put it in your wallet.
Yeah, and Game Time makes that easy for you. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, just create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So Tyler put together a beautiful graphic for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't say beautiful.
The conversation we had yesterday. Zach Wheeler, how does he stack up versus the best 3 years of Hamels and the best 3 years of Roy Halladay? Both pretty damn good pitchers. Now, we did not use 2008 as the start of Cole Hamels' run because it was not the best 3-year run he had here because 2009 kind of sucked for him. He had the World Series hangover, as they say. So here they are side by side for you podcast viewers. We'll put this out on our social media channel so you can take a look at it. But when you just talk about ERA, Roy Halladay takes it with a 2.91 ERA over those 3 years. Zach Wheeler right on his heels with a 3.08 ERA, and Cole Hamels in the middle of those two with a 2.97 ERA. He's right there with Roy Halladay and Cole Hamels in terms of pretty much wins, slightly less than Roy Halladay, who had 51 wins. Oof. But wins and losses is not a pitcher stat, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I usually don't take that into equation too much in the pitcher conversation. But when you look at the strikeouts, Zach Wheeler has the most, one more than Cole Hamels. WHIP, I think, is the most telling number for a pitcher. And, yes, Zach Wheeler has the best WHIP.
That's the money right there. Yeah. Strikeouts and WHIP.
Second fewest walks. Roy Halladay has the fewest walks over that 3-year stretch at 1.4 per 9. Those are 3 pretty special pitchers in Phillies history.
They really are. And just for Zach Wheeler to even be in that graphic
is amazing.
In between Cole Hamels and Roy Halladay. I mean, looking at those numbers, and I do think wins and losses, not a terrific way to assess a pitcher.
Yeah.
But you can see just by the number of those decisions,
how long he was going.
It's an indicator of how deep Halladay was going into the games. And I would give him, I think I have to give Halladay the edge because of that. 2010, 2011, 17 complete games over those 2 years, 5 complete game shutouts. I mean, and we were looking at those 3 years combined, that's factoring in 2012 Roy Halladay,
which was not his best,
who posted a 4.49 ERA. So, I mean,
to make his numbers
dominant.
after a 4.49 is ridiculous.
So if you just isolate 2010, 2011, among those 3 guys, you can't go wrong. They're all incredible, but I've never had the confidence in another pitcher on the mound than I've had when Roy Halladay was pitching.
Yeah, and that's a crazy thing. I know in the chat you guys are getting excited and geeked out over the graphic, and again, we'll have to share it on Twitter for everybody, because the fact that Zach Wheeler's in the conversation with, part of the Fantastic Four, and looking at where he matches up with the best, Roy's numbers alone. But I know we were even looking at like Lee, Hamels, all across the board. You look at pitchers that have worn a Phillies jersey. We're talking no hitters, historic moments, World Series, having, as you talk about, going into 7, 8, 9 innings of pitching, and Zach Wheeler is there. It's exciting because that is the confidence. As we talk about an extension for Zach Wheeler, this is exactly why, because Zach Wheeler has cemented himself as one of the best pitchers ever to play for the Phillies. And the numbers that we just see on the screen there back that up. His whip and his strikeouts alone, of course, as you mentioned, a little bit different with comparison with the bigger picture, knowing that someone like, Roy was pitching 7, 8, 9 innings. That obviously takes things into perspective, but still right there on the nose with the best.
And that's kind of
our ace.
Just the point of why we did it, because we mentioned yesterday, like, Zach Wheeler's as good as these guys. And I mean, you see it with some of the numbers. He's better than them in some regards. But yeah, Roy Halladay is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen in my life.
I feel like a lot of times, I know we've had this conversation before, people rewrite history because you're comparing what you see now versus what you remember, and you might remember things differently. Now, you're not, listen, Roy Halladay alone, you're not rewriting it and fluffing it. What you saw is what you know. But it's hard to compare across eras and generations and times and careers for that exact reason. But when you look at the numbers, it paints a nice picture for you that, Zach Wheeler's numbers, when we just said it yesterday, people might have been scratching their head like, I don't know if we put him in the category at the top. But when you look at the numbers, without a doubt, he's in that category.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't realize, not that I underappreciated Cole Hamels, but damn.
I know.
That was a really 3 good years, too.
And it's not even including his 2008 and his postseason run.
Where he was
NLCS MVP, World Series MVP. I mean, all 3 of these guys, honestly, it's not just the incredible careers they had, but the postseason numbers. You got Halladay coming in, throwing a no hitter in the post, a real no hitter. Not a Houston Astros no-hitter in the postseason.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not fair.
You've got Hamels with his incredible run in 2008. And Zach Wheeler, I think, at one point, I think it probably still holds. He had the lowest postseason whip of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time, not just on the Phillies, of everybody. So these are... Not only are they incredible, but they also, all 3 of them seem to have an extra gear.
Yeah, that is wild when you think about. We didn't even include that 2008 season for Hamels.
Cole Hamels is a beast.
Oh my God! But that's the thing, and I know Barbara's making a good point. Outside of Philadelphia, some people don't even really correlate the Phillies with Roy or Cliff the way that we do with Zach. But we internally absolutely do. But when you look at their careers, and I know we talked about this before the show. Not only are we looking at those seasons, but when you look at their entire career for Cole Hamels, for Roy Halladay, some of their best seasons were with the Phillies. Yeah. Which is why you absolutely have to, for those outside of Philly, include them as being a Philly.
All right, we got a lot to get here too in a little amount of time. We're going to do a buy-sell segment about the winter meetings where John will be next week in Nashville. Let's just buzz through these, and then, of course, we got to do Guess That Ballpark. And, John, you're allowed to cheat. Renee set the standard of cheating being allowed.
I set the standard of getting things right.
So however you feel like cheating with the ballpark outline, do whatever you got to do.
Let's just correct that. I set the standard for to do
using my resources, as you said, yes. Resources being cheating.
Listen, plenty of people have tried to cheat. Not everybody can do it well.
I'm not good at cheating at this game because it's really hard. So a couple headlines in Major League Baseball, and then we're going to get right into buy or sell. Our old friend, Gabe Kapler, hired by the Miami Marlins as the assistant to the general manager. Now, Gabe was in the running for the Red Sox GM job as well. So it's continues to show that Gabe Kapler continues to be regarded in pretty good circles in Major League Baseball. Now he enters the NL East again as an assistant to the GM, and I'm sure his per diem tanning that he does will be very valuable down in Florida and in Miami and on South Beach. I can just see Gabe now zipping along on some roller skates and showing off the bod. So it seems like a good fit for him. He's back in the NL East. I always think Gabe gets a little too railed on. I do think there's a good baseball mind in there.
Yeah.
It's just, it comes out in the weirdest package ever.
Yeah, it is. It's strange. I mean, you can tell that they're exactly the way you put it, Jamie. There's a good baseball mind in there, but it just comes in this bizarre package and with all the other
Spitting
stuff.
out ice cream
and you know,
burger conversations, whatever other. Yeah.
When you look at the Phillies fan base, and you know the big chunk of the fan base has been historically reluctant to newer analytics. For this guy to come in as the manager, I think he set us back years because people now associate some of these advanced stats.
But if you look at his
Gabe
rosters
Kapler.
when he was here, like they outperformed what they were. The roster his first year or two were absolute dreck.
Yeah.
So Gabe Kapler's back in the NL East.
That's a whole other conversation we need to have one day.
About
for
perineum
sure.
tanning? That's the
Gabe.
butthole tanning. And Gabe Kapler's a believer in it because apparently it gets you good vitamin. So fly that freak flag down in Miami, Gabe. That's a good place for you.
He's right. That's the right spot to be.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah. I
Everything
mean,
happens
South
in
Beach.
Florida. Everything happens in Florida.
Cuban
That's where
sandwiches,
the sunshine
chess,
is.
and butthole tanning.
Yeah.
A lot going on down there. A couple other news and notes. The Orioles are showing interest in Jordan Hicks and Josh Hader. So not only do they want some starting pitching, but it appears they're trying to corner the reliever market a little bit there. And the Brewers, Jeff Passan goes on to say, are engaging in some more Corbin Burns talk.
Ooh, yeah,
he says the Milwaukee Brewers have engaged in teams on recent days on right-hander Corbin Burns. The 2021 NL Cy Young winner finished 8th in the voting this past year with 200 strikeouts to 66 walks in just shy of 200 innings with a 3.3 ERA. Like Shane Bieber, Burns is set to hit free agency after this upcoming season. So there's another big name to watch next week, in the winter meetings. So we wanted to do a little winter meeting discussion here before we get to Guess That Ballpark, which is like kind of buy or sell. Are you buying or selling? And each of us came up with two. So I'll kick it off, and then we'll go to John and Renee about next week's winter meetings. Are these things we think are going to happen, a.k.a. buy, or not? Sell. So my two, I'll start it with Blake Snell or Yamamoto signing next week in Nashville. I am going to buy that Blake Snell signs next week. I think there's going to be legs to that. And I think the desperation of teams, somebody's just going to say, screw it, here's $200 million. I don't think Yamamoto is going to sign, but I do think Snell. So I think one of the two will happen.
I think I'm on the same page. I think I buy on Snell. I think, somebody's just going to, jump the gun, throw money at him. I really
they'll feel like they're out on Yamamoto and they're just like, screw it, here's $200 million.
Like, you're looking around and there's not that many big name options left if you want to go the straight free agent route and not trades. I think somebody's going to jump on Snell. I do think Yamamoto is going to be a little more complicated. And, I think if he's getting good advice, he'll probably wait until pretty late in the game before he makes his move. So buy on Snell, sell on Yamamoto.
Yeah, I agree. I think for sure the reports have been very consistent that Blake Snell obviously has interest in wanting to return back to his hometown in Seattle. Could see him possibly there with the Mariners. I just absolutely feel like when you think of all the names that we've heard reported to be locked in by winter meetings, or at least by the end of them, Blake Snell makes sense. And then Yamamoto, take your time, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. No rush. Have a chance to have a conversation with everybody. Visit the United States and take your time. And I think it's going to be a little bit closer to, honestly, January 4th that we see a Yamamoto.
Yeah, and then my other one was buyer Snell, Juan Soto playing in Yankees pinstripes by the end of next week. I am buying this one. I think he's going to be in the Bronx by the end of next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm buying that too. I love that the Phillies are mentioned as in the mix.
Sure.
We talked about, how great it would be, but it just has that Yankees feel to it.
It does.
I'm going to buy.
Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still.
Jenny from the block. Yeah, I know Jenny.
Juan
She still
Soto.
looks great.
I know.
She's ridiculous.
She's not human.
No.
So Juan Soto, my stomach gurgles. Sorry if anybody could hear that on the mic. I'm getting a little hungry for lunch. I could see it happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I would hate to see it happen, but I feel like Juan Soto's not messing around at this point. He's been through this before, and now he's ready to go make a big move and leave the broke boys to go to the wealthy franchise.
Yeah, and we also have Tyler's by ourselves.
Oh,
John,
Lord.
let's kick it to you next.
Yeah, so I had a few. I thought we might want to check in on our division rivals, the Mets. And
They're going to do something.
Yeah, and try to figure out what they're doing. And, for a normal team who had a season like the Mets had, you would think, okay, they're taking a step back. They're going to, they're going to shed salary. They're going to get youth. They're going to rebuild. But with all that money and all the expectations in the New York market, it makes you wonder, are they actually going to make a big splash? Are they going to be the Yamamoto team? Are they going to be in on some sort of other huge move? And it really, to me, it's a coin flip either way. Do they tinker at the edges and sort of, take this year to regroup, or do they jump right in with a big splash? So I don't really know if I buy or sell. I think I'd buy that the Mets are going to do something big and something interesting. But curious as to your all thoughts.
Well, after inking the deals with Luis Severino and Joey Wendell, the reports have come out that the Mets are still actively looking on the starting pitching market, and they're not done. They want to add not only a starting pitcher, but they are looking to add 2 or 3 guys. So I think they're going into winter meetings with this, they've got, back in the day, used to go to the store with cash because you were ready to buy something.
The wad.
They're coming into the winter meetings with a wad of cash. They're ready to make some deals. So I would buy that for sure. And I don't know if it's going to be a major thing. I don't think Yamamoto's happening, but I don't think it's going to be a major deal, but I could see them making some deals.
Yeah, I think Yamamoto's going to be a Met. With Senga there last year and the reports that he wants to play with another Japanese player, and Steve Cohen being such a business mind, I think he views that as the international kind of notice and commerce that comes from a move like that. So I think Yamamoto is going to be the Mets' big move. I do think he's going to be in division. I don't think it's going to happen next week, but I think that's the move that they make.
It's frustrating. We already got to deal with the Braves in the division.
I know.
I wish the Mets would just hang back for a while, but I guess they have their own goals. The second one for me was to check in on our friend Rhys Hoskins and see if you all had thoughts about what sort of contract he might be looking at. I was at the over-under at 3 years, $20 million per.
I think he's another Boris guy, so blood in the water.
Blood in the water.
Yeah.
I was surprised that the Phillies didn't give him the qualifying offer, 1 year, 20, because I didn't think he would accept that. I think my feeling is that he's probably going to get a multi-year deal somewhere for about the same amount per year.
I think my guess is he goes 1 year. I think he's gonna bet on himself. I just have a feeling he's gonna go to the Chicago Cubs. That's my guess. Does it happen next week? It might. That's one of those ones. He's kind of sneaky in most free agent ranks around that 20 to 25 range of best available players. I think he's gonna do a 1 year deal with the Cubs because I think it's beneficial to the Cubs, so they get the bridge year to their first base prospect that's highly touted out there. I think he goes to the Cubs for 1 year, maybe slightly north of 20, 21, something like that, in that range.
Okay.
And then tries to get that prove it deal because I don't think he's going to get long-term offers for decent money. So I think he views it as beneficial to bet on himself, hopefully put up 30 plus again and cash in the following year.
Yeah, I'm not buying what you're selling, John Foley. I'm going to use your full cover. What's your middle name, actually?
Patrick.
Oh,
John
Patrick.
Are you Irish by chance?
Yeah. Irish as a leprechaun.
Okay, John Patrick makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
And actually Jamie jumps the gun a little bit because my buy or sell for the Chicago Cubs is actually exactly that.
I'm buying it.
Yeah, clearly. So to jump off of what you just said and shift, I feel like the Cubs are gonna go in and they're gonna lock in on a starting pitcher and a 1 year deal. Someone like Rhys Hoskins, actually, because I do think coming off of injury, Rhys Hoskins is going to have a prove it year. And I also feel like as we keep hearing the different reports from the Cubs, they've been very active. We've heard their names tied to Tyler's guy, Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani. I think they're going to be signing a
Shane
starting
Bieber yesterday, a lot of guys.
like they're going to be signing a starting pitcher or making a trade for a starting pitcher, and then also that 1-year deal for Rhys Hoskins. So it sounds like, Jamie, you're buying my deal.
I buy.
It's conflicting with yours.
I think, yeah, it conflicts with mine. I think I have to sell just because I don't think Rhys has to do a 1-year prove-it deal. I think he's known quantity. I mean, the injury is what it was, but if you're bringing him in as a DH, you're not too concerned about him getting hurt again in the field. You know pretty much what you're getting in terms of OPS and 30 home runs. I think with all the teams out there looking for, a power right-handed bat, I think somebody will step up and give him a little more of that.
Okay.
Unless Rhys unless he really wants to bet on himself.
Yeah, and I think maybe it possibly is that him to go out, have a redemption year of like, this is what I deserve, and I want to make sure, like, if teams aren't willing to offer him a nice multi-year deal, take that 1-year deal, sign, and then now you can be requesting more.
I think
money
if somebody gives him 4 years, $80 million, like, he's going to take
for
it.
sure.
But I don't know if those offers
I
are
don't know
going
if
to be
the
there.
market's going to call for that. But one person the market's definitely calling for, that's Shohei Ohtani. So, of course, I have to go with my future husband, Shohei Ohtani, for the other option. I think he's staying in California, but with a new team. So, obviously, we've been hearing a lot of conversation about Shohei Ohtani, and Jeff Passan had a report that came out saying that the Boston Red Sox, New York Mets, and the Texas Rangers, who were initially in the hunt for Shohei, have allegedly dropped out of the race and are turning towards other free agents. The Dodgers are still in the conversation, of course, Cubs, Blue Jays. But I think the Dodgers, the Giants, those are the two teams I'm keeping an eye on. I think Shohei Ohtani is staying in LA.
I think he's going to be playing in Chavez Ravine, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Just I know they're desperate for pitching help this year because they have an incredibly loaded offense. Ohtani won't be able to give it to him this year, but if they can plan for 2 years from now, I think they have the money to do it. It's the market to do it. Yeah, I think he's going to be a Dodger.
Yeah, I'm buying it for the Dodgers. The way we talked about Soto just feeling like a Yankee move, Ohtani feels like a Dodgers move. I would love to see him get out of the National, stay out of the National League.
Mookie Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani.
I know.
Would be
I don't want to see that.
Not
it sort of feels like it.
Because it's another National League roadblock.
Yeah,
like,
not good at all for the Phillies. Very frustrating.
All right,
But
Tyler, you got
unfortunately,
some
I think
buy or
it's
sells for us as well.
Yeah, so Jamie, I think you answered the first question, so I know your answer, but I'll still play this to John and Renee for this first question, and it's Yamamoto ends up signing with a National League East team.
Yeah, I'm buying.
Yeah. Gosh. Now you have to look at the Phillies going up against Yamamoto and Shohei. So I would take that deal. Sadly, I'd like sign that deal with my eyes closed. I think it's happening.
I'm going to sell only on. I do think the Mets are one of the most likely destinations. I do have to think if you're placing bets on the Mets against the field of everyone else in Major League Baseball, I think the field has a better chance.
Yeah.
So I'll sell on that, but it's.
I mean, yeah.
I hope not, but it's definitely.
Yeah, the American League really needs to step up here.
Yeah,
they're selling all their pieces. They're not in the free agent market. Everybody in the National League. God,
just these super teams.
Is it time to change up the configuration of the NL and the AL?
But you guys talk about the teams in the American League. Just think about the AL Central. You have at minimum 3 teams in the AL Central that refuse to spend money.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Royals refuse to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Guardians refuse to spend money. Detroit looking like they're going to start doing it again. Minnesota looking like they're going to start doing it again. And the White Sox right now don't want to spend any money because they're a disaster. And Chris Getz quite frankly, I don't think Chris Getz is going to be a good GM. But so you have 3 teams in one division that like adamantly refuse to spend any money. It kind of knocks down your American League thing.
And that's the thing. All of our rumors that we've talked about, every hot stove, it's National League teams. When have we talked about, unless they're looking to move a guy and reporting that they're open to trading or open to conversation, we haven't talked about Detroit. We haven't talked about the Blue Jays, Tampa Bay. We haven't really talked about
The Blue Jays
Twins
are
as much.
sneaking. They're hiding in the shadows.
They're
a little
lurking
bit.
a little
Yeah,
bit. Like
lurking.
we've murmured about them, but when you look across the American League, we barely have heard any reports about them actively being aggressive in the hot stove conversation. So maybe they're behind the scenes quietly doing things, but I think they're just being cheapos.
All right, Tyler, what's your other one?
Yeah, so my second one, and I'm going to pose this question to you with a thought in mind that the one that immediately jumps out, I think, is I would sell, and there's a lesser talked about starting to happen conversation that I think I might consider buying, and that's a former MVP gets traded this offseason.
Did Soto win an MVP?
No, I don't believe so.
He came in second, I believe. Once.
I'll double check that just to be 100%.
Who do you have in mind? Who are you?
So I don't think Mike Trout gets moved this offseason.
Okay.
It seems like that's one more year away.
But I would not be surprised. The one name that keeps coming up in conversation, and when you guys talked about the Dodgers, looking to pick up an outfield arm, I would not be surprised if Christian Yelich gets moved.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible. I'll just pop in that Soto was second in MVP voting in 2021 with the Nationals.
Okay.
So not an MVP, but pretty close.
Yeah.
He also has a couple other top 10 finishes.
Yeah. Yelich is an interesting one. That's sneaky, Tyler. I like that.
The big issue with Yelich is the contract, obviously. I think he's got like 4 or 5 more years at like $26 million. Milwaukee clearly wants to shed money. They're not going to get a ton back for him because of that contract and the knowledge that they want to move off of contracts. I think if they're desperately looking to move,
he's $22 million a year through 2028.
Yeah, so
and
like
they have
4 or
a
5 more
mutual
seasons.
agreement in 29. So that's a lot of money for Christian Yelich at this point. But he's interesting. I'm going to sell on the MVP getting moved, but I do think it's close.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I lean sell, but not out of the realm of imagination by any means.
Yeah, Christopher said he mentioned Yelich also earlier in the show. I'm going to say sell on this one, but it does make you think. It's something a little different. That's why I was like, who do you have in mind specifically?
Yeah, I think that there's enough teams that are competing that could use outfield help. And if you look at Yelich's numbers last year, it was the first year he was healthy in quite some time. I think he was like 276. He's
a solid player.
A majority of his major statistical categories rebounded. They're never going to be the MVP numbers that he put together, a few years ago. But I think that if there's a team that is willing to take on some of that money or a majority of that money, you're probably going to get Christian Yelich for relatively cheap compared to what
it's a bargain.
His numbers. If you just blindly put his numbers into a vacuum and spit them out, I think you're going to get him for cheaper than what you probably would.
I see Marshall Mock in the chat talking about Trout, which is if we're talking about MVPs possibly on the move, he should be included in the conversation. I still don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, it seems like the last I heard from either Passan or Rosenthal was that he still has yet to officially request out, and both sides kind of have a desire to. Because there was a feeling that the Angels felt like he should have returned earlier last year from injury. So, it's going to take Mike Trout saying, I want to be moved for it to actually happen. So,
and for the Brewers specifically, going back to them, they are cleaning house. I know Barbara was saying in the chat, that's a good point. So, for that reason, I could see him getting moved. But for Mike Trout, there's been so many conflicting rumors, but it does seem like evidently it comes down to whatever Mike Trout wants to do.
Yeah. So, it is time, Renee. Your favorite part of the show.
And that is to talk about Hero Bread.
That's my favorite part of the show.
First of all, I could use a nice sandwich on, some Hero
hungry.
Bread right now. I could use a nice, juicy, meaty sandwich. And with Hero Bread, you can eat soft, fluffy, delicious bread. It's high fiber, ultra low net carbs, 0 grams sugar per slice. They've got tortillas, they've got sliced breads, they've got rolls. But it's so great right now to have a nice wrap with some Hero Bread. And I had some of their bread and tortilla. It's hearty, it's delicious, and nutritious, which we love. So over at hero.co, you can use code PHLY, get 10% off. You can also shop for Hero Bread on Amazon. And the beauty is that they've got all of their bread is fewer calories than the leading national brand and crosses over regardless of your diets, your allergies, your lifestyle constraints, that Hero Bread has something for you. So before we get into my favorite game, make sure you take a look at Hero Bread over at hero.co. Use that code PHLY, get 10% off, and eat like a winner because winners are sitting over here.
Oh, jeez.
So it's time for Guess That
Renee is the best cheater of all of us.
If you can't tell, I'm clearly winning. It is 5-2. I really, this is becoming kind of like the.
Well,
it's looking like the Eagles race against the 49ers Cowboys, where I'm extending the gap here. I had a 2-game lead. Now I've got a 3-game lead. Hopefully the Eagles can make it.
I'm going to guess without even seeing the ballpark today. Great American Ballpark.
Okay, so John, I love that you're on this.
I'm going to get it right
now.
one of these days.
It's time.
All right, Tyler, hit us. Hit us with the ball. No, that just looks like any ballpark.
Oh, good Lord. Here we go again.
Has Kauffman Stadium been guessed?
No.
I'm going to go with Kauffman Stadium.
Oh, it does actually. Oh.
This is a
like
pretty
when
generic ballpark. This looks like maybe the NES baseball game.
This is
ballpark.
any little league, 90-foot field you've ever seen in your life.
Man,
I hate
this game.
Think it's White Sox guaranteed.
Wow.
I know
Guaranteed.
I'm early.
This is
but
the earliest you've
Lock it
ever
in.
submitted.
No,
Wait, I'm
no,
not
no,
locking
you're
it.
locking
I'm
it in.
No.
That's it.
Renee's
Great
locked
guess.
in.
No, I didn't say that. I
It
just said
seemed
I
like a
think.
lock-in answer to me.
No, I just said I think the name. It's guaranteed field. I was just saying the name. I wasn't locking it.
I'm locked in.
Great
With
American
Because
Kauffman.
there's
No,
honestly-
Great American
American
Kauffman and the Royals. Because to me, that's just like your standard little league field. Like, and it's got the fountain in center
But
field.
there are about 5 or 6 that this could be, in my opinion.
That's why I'm not going to overthink it, Renee, and I'm going to do the same shitty approach I have every day.
Oh my
And that's fire from the hip, and hopefully I'll get one of these right.
I'm gonna just go with a suggestion from the chat here. Blue Jays, why not?
Blue Jays?
Yeah, one thing
Well-
I've learned from this game is that I do not pay attention to what the dimensions of fields are.
Yeah,
at
the
all.
cheat I use is images from space.
Okay.
So the dome
Space.
stadiums are really tough for me. So there's my image of the Rogers Center. I don't know if that's going to help me at all.
That
here.
is actually hilarious.
Yeah.
that You have, remember like Google Earth where you could literally
Yeah,
see the space? That's basically what you're on right now.
Yeah, basically. It actually, the image is via Google Earth.
Oh, you're on
Yeah.
Google Earth.
No, it's a Business Insider, but all the images are from Google Earth.
My cheat sheet's much more sophisticated than yours.
Yeah. Well, I got mine,
Yeah.
Renee. Are you
Yeah.
official answer,
I
Renee?
I'm not taking any position on whether or not it's cheating, but there's a lot
Renee?
going on here.
Oh, yeah. She's got like
Wait
4
a
different
minute.
websites. She cross-references. Do I
don't
have to set a
cross-
timer?
Well, I need to see everything. I don't want to do a Google Earth.
Siri, 1-minute timer.
We didn't do Cleveland yet. This is not cheating, John.
One of the two of you has asked if we've done Cleveland every day this week. We used progressive field already.
Oh yeah. Wait, I forgot to consult my list. Oh, silly of me.
Well, you have 45 seconds.
Can you add an additional 30 seconds so I can consult my list?
Absolutely not.
All right, we did do progressive field. That was on like Tuesday.
35 seconds, Renee.
This game, every time we play this, it makes me have to pee. I get so nervous. And I'm feeling that right now. Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
I suck at this game, John, but I enjoy
gonna
watching her
go-
get tormented
I am gonna
because she overthinks it, and then last minute it's like, bah! And she just
I
word
feel like I
vomits
don't
out
want
of
to change
stadium.
because God forbid I was correct.
Go with your
and then I
gut.
changed.
Go with your gut. It would ruin your weekend. You have 10 seconds.
All right. You know, I'm gonna clock in before the timer.
Wow.
And I'm gonna go White Sox. I'm gonna go with my initial answer because
All
we
right.
have not. Wait, let me double check my list. We
All
have
right,
not
You
done
and
it
Jim
yet.
Cunningham in the chat
Have
agree.
you heard the correct answer?
Yes.
Oh
Kauffman
gosh.
Stadium.
Wait, did you hear the correct answer in the chat?
Also, yes.
Oh, did anybody
It's
guess
White
Casey
Sox.
in the chat?
One of the three of you have
Jim
it right
said White
today.
Sox. I guarantee.
One of the 3 of us has it right. So I'm Kauffman, you're White Sox, and you were
Jays.
Jays.
Oh, I can't handle
Rogers
this.
Center.
Tyler getting. I forgot. That's what it's called.
That's what it's called, guaranteed rate.
That's why I said guaranteed.
It will be Comiskey to me forever.
Oh.
And
Yeah, it's always
Right.
Comiskey.
And the funny thing is, it wasn't even Comiskey in between Comiskey and,
Yeah.
and this now. It was U.S. Cellular for like a decade.
Wow. Well, Renee's going to have a great weekend because she's got 2 in a row here.
E-L-E-S, Eagles!
All right,
I feel like I can-
congratulations, Renee. You're a phenomenal cheater.
Wow, that's incredible. And you know what, guys? I said it early this time before the chat, before I even started cheating.
That's true.
I was doing. I said it pretty quickly.
That's true.
Yeah, you
That
did.
was rough.
Congrats to her. Real quick, we'll go around the room and get our Eagles thoughts for this weekend. Huge one against the San Francisco 49ers. I'll be doing the pre- and post-game show with Bo Wolf and Zach Berman. So make sure you're checking us out Sunday at 4 o'clock leading up to the game and then immediately after the game. I actually think, as miserable as it's going to be to hear the 49ers peacock around, I think this is a really tough spot for the Eagles. I don't like going against them, and I retain the right to flip-flop on Sunday on the pregame show. But right now, I think the Niners are going to pull it out. Really close game. I have like 28-24, something like that. I think San Fran wins, and I hate it. Yeah, I know. I just feel like I just want to beat them so bad so they can shut the hell up, and everybody else can shut up about this.
Birds by 50, or these crybabies and their crybaby fans.
Yeah, I hope
Birds
you're
by
right.
50. I'm not gonna. That's not based on any intricate analysis. That's just based
Just
on what
all
needs to
vibes
happen.
and gut. Yeah.
50 points.
I know, Dave P. I'm sorry.
I'm feeling like it's going to be the same way Spiral Out. Jim and I won today. The Eagles are going to win this weekend. Listen, it's a tough stretch, I will say.
Brutal.
Eagles are going to have Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, all that before Christmas Day game. And I do feel like they're going to drop one. And I would rather, if I had to look at all of them, I'd rather them lose to the Seahawks. And definitely don't want to lose to the 49ers or the Cowboys. So I'm going to say they squeeze this one out. And I just hope it's not just like the last 4 straight games of comeback wins. Please just get out ahead.
I just hate that San Fran's on
halftime down.
10 days rest. And I think I wish this was a 1:00 game, because 4:25 to me, that's West
San
Coast
Fran.
time.
But
I just think it's stupid.
Had Debo and the 49ers not run their mouths, I think the 49ers
They did.
might
They
win
may
this.
have leveled the playing field.
But I think that they leveled the playing field because there's some extra ammunition.
Because they're
that,
dumbasses.
Like the motivation to want to shut them up is going to literally carry the Eagles.
Yeah,
so
I think
they
they're
might be a
fired
little
up for
bit
this
more.
game.
You got Lane back. They'll be excited. They'll definitely be fired up. And that chalkboard material is going to help the Eagles win.
Mopar, I saw you say that I sucked the first time. You didn't have to say it again, man. All right.
Oh, wait, Jamie, did you see in the chat? This guy, I think it's Mopar, said, I love you, but you suck, dude. Yeah,
Well, this is now cutting into our afternoon beer and lunchtime as a show. We're going to go out and just chew the fat a little bit. But don't forget, John Foley is going to be in Nashville at the Winter Meetings next week on behalf of PHLY. So make sure you're checking out the website next week, checking out the YouTube channel. If you're in the chat, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like and subscribe. We love all of you. It's going to be a really exciting week next week in Major League Baseball. Hopefully the Phillies are tied to some of these. On behalf of Tyler, Renee, and John, have a great weekend, everyone. Go Birds.
Beat up on Brock and the Niners.
And make sure you're checking us out next week as we are live from the Winter Meetings. Have a great weekend, everybody. Love ya.
We all silly like the mayor.